We have more sand than Saudi Arabia has oil, and Saudi Arabia's oil reserves, known oil reserves, are worth $10 trillion. You see, many countries talk in these big numbers because it's normal to them. When we talk about these numbers, it sounds so amazing to us because we don't know our value and we don't know our worth. Tell a young Oprah Winfrey when she was young that she would be a billionaire, and she would tell you that you were crazy. I saw an interview with Bill Gates when he had started Microsoft, when they were getting going and he was doing well, making a lot of money. He said that no one could possibly use more than $10 million. That $10 million, you could never use more than that. He could never see himself as more than that amount of money. Now today he was worth billions and billions of dollars. He couldn't imagine it. And some of you are stuck in that same place, and we want to get you out of that today. And so we have the supply. So now that we know that we have the supply, let's talk about the numbers. We have shown you in our documentaries that our aragonite is selling for up to $7,000 per ton. We showed you proof of this. You want to go back to that, go to our first documentary if you want to understand what we're seeing. Mostly it's sold for around $2,500 to $3,500 per ton. So that was the median, and that was what most of it are sold for, and we showed you proof of that. You can go and prove that yourself now. Alright? But some have said that this is processed aragonite, and its processing is expensive. I don't understand where they got that from, because that is really not the case. Because the sand that we showed you that was selling for that amount was actually aquarium sand and play sand. That doesn't need any processing. It's not what they're putting in phones and cell phones and circuits. It's just they take it from under the ocean, they wash out the salt, and they make play sand, and they dump it on playgrounds all across the world. They dump it in different places all across the world. There's no processing to that. But they're selling for, in some cases, $3,900 per ton. $3,900, and they paid $2 per metric ton for it. We showed you proof of this. There's no processing involved with that, and there's a huge market for it. Let me put that in perspective for you. We will keep the number extremely conservative because we want to show you the numbers that we can make from our aragonite industry. This is going to change our lives forever. Please share this. It's important. We have to do this together. I'm going to keep the numbers extremely conservative, so we're not going to talk about thousands. We're not going to talk about 7,000, 5,000, 2,000, not even 1,000. We are going to estimate that on average we're going to make $200 per ton from our aragonite. Just $200 per ton. Is that fair? Is that a fair conservative numbers based on what we found? We feel it is too low, but we're going to work with those numbers just to show you how serious this thing is. All right? Let me put it in perspective. Australia, they sold 1.4 million tons to some of their neighbors. All right, 1.4 million tons of sand. All right, that's between 2016 and 2017. Go and look it up. And they sold that, they said, at $554 million. They sold 1.4 million tons, and they sold it for $554 million. That is our whole customs budget. We don't even pay customs anymore. But look at the value of it. And this is on their government website, and they sold that for $400 per ton. So Australia sold their sand for $400 per ton. We are halving that. We're going half, and that is what they just sold just to pump on people's beaches, etc. $400 a ton, while we were getting $2 a ton. Okay, so let's say that we go half of it. If we go half and we sell 1 billion tons of sand, which we know we can do because there are countries that are hungry, they will provide the resources to come for it because they need it and they have the money. If we go half, that means that we make $200 billion per year just on our sand and aragonite. This is not touching our other natural resources. This is just our sand and aragonite. $200 billion conservatively, because we know there will be naysayers who can't think big, and so we want to put it way down, lower than what Australia does, lower than what everyone else does, lower than what we know it's worth. We want just $200 per metric ton, and we make $200 billion per year. Are you all listening to me? Our yearly budget is $2.5 billion. I hope you all are paying attention. Don't let them fool you. This is easily researchable. If we were to keep it at the $7,000 price, that's $7 trillion a year if we sell 1 billion tons of sand. If we put it at the 2,500 or 3,500 that it's selling for, that we can see on record on the internet right now that it's selling for, that is $2.5 to $3.5 trillion. Our sand is worth more than oil, Bahamas. We have to wake up and realize that we don't have to be poor. What are we going to do with this money that we make? So we put conservative numbers, $200 a ton, when we know we can make more. Okay, and we put an amount, we didn't go 5 billion like Earl LeBeau said, we went to 1 billion that we know we can do, and then we can keep it where our country isn't disadvantaged and our ecosystem isn't affected. So it's responsible. And we put it in areas where it won't affect our ecosystem. Responsible. Is that fair so far? I think it is. And so now, how will money be made from investing? Because when we make this $200 billion, we're not going to touch it. It's going to be invested. So this is what we're going to invest it in. Stocks and bonds overseas, so it doesn't affect our economy. The stock market grows a certain amount every single year. The stock market grows easily, all of the markets on a conservative level, 7 to 10%. What we've experienced is that in the last 10 years, the S&P 500, which we will be investing in the last 10 years, it grew 16.799% between 2009 and 2019. 16.799. So we're going all the way conservative and saying, what if we only get a 10% return on that? So we're going to put it all the way down, and we're going to say, what if we only get 10%? Why are we saying that? Because like we said, Norway made 20% on the money they invested in the markets last year. 20% on that money alone. All right, so we're going to go all the way conservative and drop it to half of that. And let's say we invest that money and we only get 10% of it. So we'll tell you what else we're going to invest in, and then we're going to show you the numbers, right, and how it really works. We're going to invest it in real estate locally and abroad. There's going to be some amazing investments you're going to hear about in a minute. Be the change, y'all. And so, business. We're going to invest in some businesses locally and abroad. Watch when you hear these businesses. It's time for change, y'all. It's time for innovative thinking. This is going to change the country forever. It's going to change your life forever. When you go to Dubai, those Dubai people are sitting around most of the day, and other foreigners come in to work for them. And they're sitting around thinking about their next big project and what they love. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if we could be thinking about our next big project or what we're going to do with our life and doing what we love, instead of thinking about how we're going to eat tomorrow, how we're going to pay the light bill? Can you imagine a change? This change is here, y'all. You all have to accept it, and you all have to make it happen. Or we can continue it the whole way. It's totally up to you. All right, so we're going to spend, some of it will be invested in money, and some of it will be invested in our annual budget. The annual budget with this new Bahamas will be $35.97 billion. So you could say $36 billion. The $35.97 billion. All right, so that's the sweet spot. That's where we want to get. And so we're going to be selling 1 billion tons of sand for $200 per ton, and that's going to give us $200 billion a year. Now focus, pay close attention. So we're going to take that $35.97 billion and we're going to subtract our yearly budget, and I'll tell you what that budget is for in a minute, of $35.97 billion. That doesn't even touch us. We don't even break a sweat. All right, and that's going to leave us with $164.03 billion. All right, we're going to make 10% on that money, and it's going to increase to 180 billion. And so every year this is going to increase. So in year 1 we'll have 180 billion. By year 2 it's going to increase exponentially with another 10%, and we're going to have we're going to have 378 billion. So by year 2 we're going to have $378 billion. If we stop right there and not sell sand again, or not touch our natural resources again, we'll have enough to cover our entire budget just on the returns that we'll be making. The sweet spot where Norway is right now. Our sweet spot, because we're just a few people, maybe 400,000 at most, our sweet spot is 359 billion to cover our full budget. Watch when you hear what we're going to do with this budget. It's going to blow your mind. It's time for a new Bahamas and a new way of thinking. By year 5, we'll play with it and say 2025, if we got it this year. By year 5, 2025, our sovereign wealth fund would have a total of $1.1 trillion. If we make the $200 million every year, and we get 10% a year on top of that, cover all of our budget, we subtract it from it every year, and keep investing back in, we would do what Norway did, that took them 20 years to do, we will do in 5 years. Because sand is more valuable than oil, and we have a smaller amount of people. We will have $1.1 trillion in 5 years. That's the sweet spot, 2025. We will be able, at a conservative 10%, to not have to do any mining ever again. And we could just make money on investments and trading. And that's from one natural resource. That isn't any other natural resource. That's not the business that we're about to go into, that you're about to hear about. That's from one natural resource. It's time for a better Bahamas. What's missing is not money. What's missing is vision, y'all. That's what Walmart said. He said money isn't scarce, vision is.